Welcome to First and 15, the only podcast that's trying to get you paid. I'm here with two-time FFPC champion AB. Alongside him is my guy, Dio the Machine. Guys, we have week one in the books. The other way. You got to point the other way. It's the opposite way. You got to point the opposite way. So, guys,
Yeah, right now, yeah.
week one is in the books. I want to go through some of these important games or games that you find important to actually watch, and not just look at box scores or just look at stats. And tell me what you saw and how you kind of use that in your process. So, for me personally, I was thinking about that Green Bay game. Not only did I want to see how that Bears backfield was going to look, but I also wanted to see how the Green Bay Packers were going to look with a new quarterback. And we hadn't heard any buzz out of Aaron Jones. So I thought that was a really important game to watch. And of course, we've been hearing so much about Roschon Johnson. And so I wanted to see if he was going to be sprinkled in or if he was going to actually, split carries with Khalil Herbert. So that was an important game for me. But what did you guys think about week one and what games did you find important?
Yeah, there were a number of games. I would say, there a couple of games that like I would exclude just because certain teams were missing certain like key pieces in the offense, so they had to obviously game plan around that. So I think this is kind of important to keep in the back of your mind because if we see, we saw what the Kansas City Chiefs did. Obviously, when Travis Kelce was there, it's going to look a little bit different. So some teams you brought up the Green Bay Packers. There was no Christian Watson. Romeo Doubs was coming off a hamstring injury, and, there was talks about him playing, limited snaps. And then I think Jalen Reed even got hurt during the game. But, that's a team where, given the opponent, given the injuries, you just sort of kind of had this idea. We talked about it like in the group chat that like, oh, this is probably an Aaron Jones like smash game, like an easy way to kind of get him in the passing game, get him and AJ Dillon going on the ground against an opponent that doesn't really have an elite D line. Probably has one of the worst, probably one of the worst defenses in the league. And I feel like Green Bay has a pretty solid defense to where they can control the game. I did like what they used, what they did from like a play action standpoint, how they got Musgrave involved. I know Dale's been a huge Musgrave fan, so seeing him, play as many snaps as he did, seeing them like utilize him down the field and play action pass and misdirection, is clearly a schemed play where they had the defense going one way and Musgrave was just wide open. We just hope he was a little bit more athletic to actually find his way into the end zone. So, so there's certain aspects of that game that you definitely take away from. But then, just kind of as a whole, as far as like, is this what this offense is going to be? I think you got to be cautious, not only with Green Bay, but with other teams. For me, there were games that I wanted to see, how certain players looked. So, for instance, the Baltimore game, I wanted to see how Lamar looked in this new offense. Granted, it was going against the Texans who, in my mind, they have a very, very strong secondary, but their D-line is not as strong. So, again, kind of with a grain of salt because they probably felt like they were going to win that game regardless as long as they didn't make too many mistakes. I wanted to see how J.K. Dobbins was going to look. I wanted to see, how Zay Flowers and the receiving core was going to look. So I felt like I took quite a bit from that game, but I don't know how much I can like extrapolate towards, additional weeks. Being very, very high on J.K. Dobbins, it hurt quite a bit seeing him go down, season-ending injury. That was definitely like my dark spot of the weekend, given how many shares I had. But one thing that I did take away from that was we saw a willingness for Lamar to check down. Before Dobbins got hurt, I think he had seen like 3 or 4 targets, some schemes specifically, and some were just check down. And it seemed like Dobbins was the guy. So I feel like, again, limited sample size, but I feel like the process was right. But what I can do now is try and, take some educated gambles on who I feel like may be able to take at least 80% of his workload. And that's going to be a big guess. I went ahead and, put my money on Justice Hill. These waivers, I think, have all passed in all leagues, including FFPC. So I'm not, I'm not gonna lie. If you're in a league with me, you probably saw the amount of fab I put in on Justice Hill, just in the hopes that like what I saw with Lamar being willing to get his running backs available in the passing game is what I see. And we've kind of been hearing it, throughout camp that Justice Hill has been, kind of running with the ones. Obviously, Dobbins was away and Edwards was coming back, but Edwards has never really done anything in the passing game. I've seen enough of Melvin Gordon, and we know what they think of him to put him in the practice squad. So I think they're going to give Justice Hill a shot. This is a guy that I think had an injury very early on in his career, and I don't know if he was just like never healthy. I know he's kind of been correct me if I'm wrong, he's been kind of a dynasty guy, but maybe this is his year. Maybe this is his time to prove it. And in an offense where they want to spread things out, and this kind of goes back to where we may see them transition to more what they are going to look like for most of 2023, where they have Bateman, Zay, and Odell all on the field constantly with Mark Andrews, really spreading things out. I do want to take a stab at that backfield. Maybe Justice Hill isn't the guy, but I'm not taking the approach of, it's going to be a three-headed committee. Like, I don't want any part of it. Like, I do want the backfield because I think whatever running back is back there is going to have light boxes. And if Lamar again is willing to pass down or check down to his running backs in the potential red zone opportunities that they're going to get, I think that role could have, or that running back could have quite the role. So that was one game, and there's a lot others. I talked quite a bit, so I'm gonna let Dale go ahead and speak on his on what he saw this past week, anyway.
Yeah. So you definitely stole one of the games I was gonna say. That Texans Ravens game was a big. So first of all, the question was which game kind of gave you, I think you said the most insight, or as far as helped my process a lot. The answer is all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one I could put my eyes on gave me insight, because like I'm always saying, with week one in the NFL season, it's like Christmas, right? Like all summer long, we're drafting these guys, we're making these assumptions, giving these takes about what we think is going to happen, because we're not fortune tellers, we think is going to happen. But when week one comes, it's the first time we get actual credible evidence that we can utilize, and it's actually giving us points, right? So the question is, the answer is all of them. Now, specific games, like I said, I was going to say the Ravens and Texans, and it's a twofold thing. It's not just the Ravens, but like Abby was saying, just kind of seeing the type of offense Todd Monken was bringing to the Ravens, seeing the aerial attack for Lamar Jackson. We heard things as far as Lamar Jackson having more control as far as play calling or checks at the line. Just seeing the how they put the order as far as wide receivers. They have 3 wide receivers we've been drafting kind of in the same area all summer long. We finally got to see which one was like the top guy, or we assume is going to be the top guy, which to me it looked like it's going to be Zay. From the very first drive, they were trying to get the ball in Zay's hands any way possible. And he was cooking. He's the type of player where he runs like at a different speed compared to everybody else on the field, kind of like that Tyreek Hill effect. And that's impressive to see them doing that for a rookie, out of the gate with Odell Beckham on the team and a Rashad Bateman, 2 other first round receivers. So that was good to see. Of course, Mark Andrews wasn't there, so we didn't get all the information we were looking for, but it was still good. As far as back, I'm not so sold on the running back, specifically Justice Hill, yet. I get it. He scored 2 touchdowns. We've heard good buzz about him. I was high on him coming out the draft. He went to I think it was Louisiana Tech, maybe, or one of those. I believe it's a Louisiana school a few years ago. But he's just kind of be buried in the depth chart ever since he's been in the league. He's been with the Ravens his whole career. But they've always had other guys they played before him. He's been injured, or yada yada yada. Always a reason, right? And this year, it honestly felt like it was going to be another reason. Again, Dobbins was back, healthy. Gus is still there. But the stars align, and now he's going to. The only thing I would be concerned about is, number one, he had 5 carries and 6 yards, or some kind of weird stat line like that. But then with the 2 touchdowns, his 2 rushing touchdowns were from the 1 yard line, or like really, really close. So it's not like he broke any big runs or anything like that. Now, between him and Gus, he's definitely the passing down back. So he's definitely going to get all of those shares between Gus. But they still use Gus, and I don't think it's going to be a
Right.
situation where they say, "Okay, we're going to just use one guy. We just have to figure out the guy we want." I think it's
Absolutely.
still going to be to some extent a committee, right? We've
Absolutely.
heard them saying they want to bring back Melvin or bring up Melvin Gordon from the practice squad. They like him. I even think I heard the coach saying that they're comfortable with their stable of running backs. Like they like who they have. They're not even going to bring. Because remember when it happened, we were all saying in a group chat, Kareem Hunt to the Ravens, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Leonard Fournette to the Ravens, but they're saying like they're good. So
And if that statement,
go ahead.
yeah, if that statement is believable, like that's really kind of what made me like even gravitate more
Lean
towards
more into Justice Hill.
Yeah,
I got
and
you.
also like kind of talking about the goal line, the fact that they used him at the goal line multiple times, and I'm not saying that he's the goal line back, obviously, but the fact that they used him multiple times,
they
and he was
trusted
able to
him.
convert, that to me is like, okay, he can be the passing downs guy, the 2-minute guy, and he's going to get goal line.
Yeah. I feel you on that. And like you said, taking a stab on them is a good idea. I ain't gonna lie. When I was doing my waivers, I was kind of throwing a little bit of money at Justice Hill, like like a quarter here and there, like just to see. But then just kind of just thinking through it.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person I like to take all possibilities into account.
Yeah.
If he is the guy, then that could be a league winner because he has the full skill set. He has the offense. Why not, right? Why not? So I haven't looked at my waivers yet, so I don't even know how it plays out. Go ahead.
And that's what Fab is to me. It's not me spending like a ton of money, like assuming like this is for sure the guy, this is my like league winner. This is me saying, man, there is a potential here. Let me go after it. It's why like I loaded up.
So let me ask you this: how much money did you spend? Like, what's your highest bid for Justice Hill? You've already done it, right? So it don't matter.
Yeah, I would probably say, I'd probably say on average, I think I spent anywhere from like
no, not average. What's the highest?
The highest not too crazy. The highest probably was like 329.
Ooh,
that's like one league,
that's
and
high.
then the far majority of leagues
Get
it was
money.
like it ranged. Yeah, the far majority of leagues it was from like 150 to like 190. But in that particular league, like every league is different, and it's just to me, it's just a feel. Like there's no rhyme or reason behind it, except for like what I've the logic that I created in my mind. And in my mind, this is a team that's like lethal, but this team like needs a running back.
Right.
And
we
talked about it before. Yeah, in these like tournament settings, like where total points matters, I care about points, and I'm trying to get those points in any way that I can get them. Constantly turning the roster. So yeah, he was definitely one of the guys I went after. But in the same right, like a lot of the bigger names that were like on the waiver wire ads, like luckily I had a good majority of those players. So some of this was like, okay, I'm not having to spend money on those guys. Let me splurge a little bit. Luxury tab, what I call it. Yeah.
What about the disappointment in Isaiah Likely?
Hold up. Are we about to move to a different subject? I don't want to move to a different subject yet.
Good.
Okay, good. Real quick. The Texans, just to put my homer hat on, right?
Yeah.
The Texans, I wanted to kind of see what type of offense they were going to have. It looks like it's going to be a slow-moving, a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection, horizontal type offense. Tank Dell didn't get as much play or as many snaps as we would probably hope he should get. That being said, Noah Brown just went on IR, so he might actually now have opportunity to kind of affect the offensive game plan. But that offense right there, if they can figure out a playmaker, they're not going to be a dead offense like they've been in the past. Stroud looked like he was like content, or he looked poised. Like he didn't look like a rookie to me. He just didn't have the weapon, but he didn't look like a rookie. So I think if you can figure out who the guy is there, and right now the guy is honestly Robert Woods. If you look, Robert Woods scored, I think double-digit points. So if you want a guy there, it's a free square right now, and he can fill out a spot.
I agree. And Nico saw quite a bit of a few targets as well. Noah Brown going on IR is huge to me because if you get Tank Dell on the field now, and now he gets to play in the slot, to me, I think once you can only ignore him for so long. If he's open, he's open. But I agree with the Robert Woods. I do think that, like you said, I think this offense is going to be a lot better than what it showed. And this is not the homer in me. This is that line, is going to get healthier. That line is going to get better. This rookie quarterback is going to get better. This is his first NFL game. What they're doing at the running back position, I think, time will tell. I think, to me, I don't want to take away too much from this week. But I think, definitely it was not a positive not seeing Dameon Pierce play as many snaps as people had anticipated, or we had anticipated him throughout the offseason.
One more thing, one more game, Chris. One more game. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time. But the other game, because again, Abby took my Ravens Texans game as the game. So the game I'm going to pick that I wanted to see was the Cowboys and the Giants, because I think that was going to give us a lot of information that we were trying to figure out throughout this whole summer as well. Specifically, the type, who was going to be the main receiver for the Giants, who was going to be the guy they leaned on, whether it really is just Darren Waller or bust, or it was going to maybe be Paris Campbell or Isaiah Hodgins, your boy, or even the rookie, Jalen Hyatt. Who was going to be the true offensive weapon in the aerial attack on the outside for the Giants? I want to see that. And I want to see what the Cowboys were going to do, right? There was an episode we had a couple months ago where Abby was telling me that the Cowboys said they want to go into the season in ground and pound. But when we talked about it, we talked about how can they be ground and pound with that type of personnel? Tony Pollard is not a true between the tackles grinder, right? They have these offensive receivers, Cooks, CD, Gallup, and then they have Pollard, who's good in the passing game. So what is it going to be? Is it going to be a true ground and pound, or are you really going to lean into what type of talent you have in your personnel? And the problem was that the game was such a blowout that I don't really think I got the answers.
Right.
I think we got the answer. I think we got the answer. This is that the offense is going to go through Dak and Tony Pollard, but they are going to be a passing team. Even when they were up, they were still passing. This was not a team that was looking to grind. I think if you're in a super flex, to me, Dak is a buy low because they're going to get in competitive games. The only thing that's going to hold them back, and it'll be, and he's definitely a quarterback I want to have on my roster for games that are going to be competitive. The Jets probably maybe not so much because their defense is so elite. But in games that he's going to be competitive, they're going to throw quite a bit, and he's going to get there one way or the other, whether it's through a lot of volume through the pass game, or you saw him take off a little bit. And granted, he didn't really have to do much at all, but I saw him do just enough to where I feel like Dak is going to be a serviceable fantasy QB in the right situation. You just got to know when to start him and then when to sit him.
Hey, can we go back and talk about?
I told you he was a liar. I've been saying he's a liar all season.
Hey guys, let's go back and let's talk about that Ravens game one more time, because I think most people see Isaiah Likely as a good replacement for Mark Andrews, but he got one target. They thought, but he got one target. Is that cause for concern about starting Mark Andrews, knowing that this offense now has an extra weapon in Zay Flowers? Do we think that is going to translate to Mark Andrews as well? Is it more about because if we never thought that the talent difference, that there wasn't a huge talent gap between Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, and for him to get one target, are we a little afraid that maybe Mark Andrews is not going to be featured in his offense like he was in past years?
No, my answer to that would be that we don't know, but a couple different things. I do not think Isaiah Likely is just as talented as Mark Andrews. I just don't think that. But two, I have very little Mark Andrews this year because this is a new offense. And I think, I just never understood how people were so confident that he was just going to be an elite. And he may, I don't know. We don't know. We have no clue. I don't think that you can use last week's game for a number of the reasons that we talked about. One, Isaiah Likely is not Mark Andrews. 2, they were playing the Texans. Texans not only have a strong secondary, but they're kind of a run funnel. And Baltimore probably felt like they were going to be able to win, so they were probably more conservative. So I don't think you can take anything from that game. I think it's still a large question mark as to what Mark Andrews is going to be. But when it's that much of a question, I just go someplace else that's not a question. Like this year, it seems like every year we do this. Like we do this where we're just like, you know what? We're not taking any of these early tight ends. We're just gonna find the guys later. And like we threw out so many tight ends that just like hit. Hayden Hurst had a great game. Before we started, before like the games, before the initial waiver run, said go out and get Hunter Henry. Go out and get Hunter Henry. It's like I'm starting Hunter Henry. I'm playing Hunter Henry in DFS. Lo and behold, number 1 tight end of the week. But Zach Ertz. I didn't start Zach Ertz, but like he's viable. Logan Thomas is viable.
If Musgrave didn't fall down, if Musgrave didn't fall down, he would have been the number 1 tight end in the league too. If he would have scored that touchdown.
So and then even Kincaid was like getting targets. So you have so many like Bob and Grant,
even Laporta, Sam Laporta, the rookie, he did well too.
Yeah, and a lot of the higher end guys obviously were hurt, but like to me, like I think I'm just gonna continue doing this late round thing because they just continue to fall. Like, and some of the guys like, and then like that mid round tier was just like a tier. They're just like, there's too many like great guys, like too many like high end guys, potential breakout guys that are going in that mid range where the Njokus were going, where the Pat Freiermuths were going. Not to say that they were bad picks, but like, now that you like look back at it, we got 1 week in the books. It's almost like, well, shoot, I'd be happy to have like Hunter Henry and Hayden Hurst. I call it the Triple H. I have a lot of teams that have Higbee, Henry, and Hurst. And I'm just playing the matchups with them. I'm just playing the matchups, and really, like for me, it starts, and I keep talking about this. It starts with point totals, and are they going to be in competitive games? That's why it was easier for me to start Hunter Henry this week. I'm like, well, they got to play Philadelphia. Philadelphia is probably going to like be up for a good amount of time. And they're going to have to throw, and so it's just going to be like garbage time. So I don't know what we were talking about, but that late round tight end, Dale. We
were talking about the Ravens. We were talking about Isaiah Likely and the Ravens. And Yeah, I would, and even before like dropping Isaiah Likely, I would see what Mark Andrews does in this offense. Get a couple games in, see what he looks like. If Mark Andrews just seems to kind of be an up and down player, there's no rhyme or reason to like when he's able, when he's a fantasy producer or not. Then obviously you're not dropping Mark Andrews, but then you can drop Isaiah Likely at that point, especially like if you're not in a tight end premium league or you're in a short bench league. So let me speak on this a little bit, right? So Mark Andrews, I'm concerned, all right? And I am concerned for what I saw in the game, right? Specifically, I'm concerned because of how well or how much they utilize Zay Flowers. And I've already said this today in this show, but I just want to reiterate it. They were manufacturing ways to get the ball in hands, and it was through the short, like the hitch routes, the quick slants, the intermediate routes, the handing off the ball and letting them run in reverses. Like when I see that, I look at it like, first of all, like you said, it's a new offensive coordinator. So all the personnel is new to him, right? He has no true relationship with Mark Andrews or no rapport with Mark Andrews. But I look at it like in the past when Mark Andrews was successful, and he's been successful since his rookie year, I don't recall the Ravens ever having a true weapon besides him on the field. Somebody that was a true threat consistently to get the ball and to do something with the ball. It's always been like all these like wide receiver 3 type guys and then Mark Andrews, right? Or when they have a guy that they like Hollywood or Bateman, they were hurt.
Yeah.
So they were promising, but then they wouldn't last, and then they'd be gone. And then it ended up being the Mark Andrews show again. Now they've added, again, Zay, I keep mentioning, they added Odell, who Odell got a lot of targets. Like Derek Stingley was locking him up, like Derek Stingley like was on his ass, but they were using Odell deep down the field. Bateman, I think, had a few catches. And again, Zay. So then you look at it like, okay, have they now felt like, okay, maybe we can look to our receivers, but we don't have to use the tight end as much? Because don't forget, and I mean, this will sound bad, right? But don't forget, Mark is a 4th-round pick. Like, he didn't come to the league highly touted. Like, he kind of, and not only was he a 4th-round pick, he was a second tight end they drafted in that draft. They drafted Hayden Hurst in the 2nd round, and then they took Andrews in the 4th round. So they didn't. The way I look at that, they didn't draft Andrews with the thought process he's going to be this major threat for their offense. To me, they kind of drafted him as depth. He was a nice surprise as far as how well he was. But that wasn't his initial reason for being on the team. While Zay, if you draft the wide receiver in the 1st round, you plan to use that guy. Of course, if he's healthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they did. So I'm a little concerned because in last year, and this is Isaiah Likely's rookie season, last year, the games where Andrews was out, Isaiah Likely produced damn near the same amount as Andrews. Like, it was like a seamless replacement.
Right.
And I'm not, like Abby saying, I'm not saying he's as talented as Andrews, but he was used the exact same way as Andrews, and he was able to produce. Now, game 1, in his 2nd year, so you would theoretically think he's better. He gets 1 catch against the Texans,
1 catch.
who are rebuilding, just trying to figure out this defense. Like, what are we doing here, right? Like, I don't know, man. I'm concerned. The second thing I want to mention, though, Abby, what are your thoughts on Juwan Johnson? And I'm not even trolling. I didn't really watch the game. No, I'm trolling.
Yeah, no.
Like, really, what are your thoughts on him?
No, I like what I saw. I think, again, like, this year, like, I mean, I think you really got to, like, look at the matchups, because they're, like, teams are certain teams
Chris,
are
chill
like,
out, man, chill out.
Yeah. Certain teams are, like, very deficient in certain areas. When you look at the Tennessee Titans, and we talked about this, like, when we were going over, like, DFS options and talking about how Jamal Williams was going to be chalked because he was the only running back there, and I'm like, he's going to be running to a brick wall. And the softest part of that defense is the pass game, and nothing has changed. Nothing changed personnel-wise, and that's exactly what we saw. The weakest part of that defense to me is not the D-line, it's not the linebackers, it is the cornerbacks, and that's what they did. They attacked, and what did you see? Chris Olave ate. Shaheed, we didn't even know he was healthy. He ate. Michael Thomas even ate early on in that game. So to me, this was not like a Juwan Johnson game. Okay. But I think that there are going to be plenty of Juwan Johnson games. What I saw, I was very encouraged by what I saw. I saw him run a lot of routes. I saw him be like a check down guy, even though he didn't convert a lot because they have really good linebackers in coverage, in my opinion anyway. I like where he was being used in the field because now you got Shaheed, who's a downfield guy. And what I love to see in situations like this is let defenses get tape. We're watching Tennessee tape. Oh, they got this fast guy, Shaheed. Chris Olave is a beast. Okay, Michael Thomas looks like he's playing. Guess the one guy they're not talking about? Juwan Johnson. So I'm going to be using Juwan Johnson in DHS this week. That's a given for me. Okay, so I think, and to me, they're like teams that are just like on the extreme ends of things like this. Like the Texans are the exact opposite. You don't want to pass against the Texans. So this week they're playing against the Colts. I started Michael Pittman last week because we talked about them being a negative game script and this sort of him being like kind of go to an outlet, and that panned out. This week I'm benching Michael Pittman. I'm not going to be having him in my lineup, and instead, whoever they tell me to start and running back is going in my lineup. If it's Jake Funk, welcome to the party.
Oh man,
Zach Moss, welcome to the party. And that's what it's gonna be. So like there are certain teams where you got to look at it like, they have such an elite defense, but their secondary is trash. That like you have to account for that. You really do have to account for that in your start and sit decisions. I tell y'all all the time, like I don't care what your name is. Like I don't care what your name is. Like I will bench you. Kittle, sit on the bench. Okay, sit on the bench. I'm not sure what's going on. Hunter Henry, I like your situation. I like what I've heard. We're going to take a gamble with you. I will just do that routinely. That's why when I try to build these rosters now, especially, it's like everybody on my roster, I want you to be able to play at some point, okay? I just need you to be ready when I put your ass in the game, okay? Everybody on my roster, I need you to be able to play. If you can't play, Like if I don't feel like
Yeah.
you can play on my roster, hit the road. Greg Dolchis, bye.
Amen.
Adam Troutman,
Amen.
come on down.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want because
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
right situation,
Yeah.
you're gonna see like these guys eyes blow up. DFS is probably the best thing for people who
Yeah.
play season long because you look at DFS and you're like, oh man, that is a nice matchup. Wait, do I really?
Yeah.
I think I really do want to start him over player who's like, so. I think all those things like really have like helped me out as far as starting. And so far it's paid off. And I definitely get burned a couple times, but I think it pays off more time than not. So Jawan,
You know what's crazy?
I'm still rolling with him. We'll see what happens.
You know what's crazy? Like, I was looking at some of my rosters this week, right? And we're always trying to build these rosters. Us, we kind of tend to focus on like rounds 10 through 20 as far as those sleepers or those gems later. But when you get good at that, and I'm not trying to like bang my chest and say I'm good at it, but when you feel like you build a team that has great gems or late round options, then when it comes to like your start sit decisions, you got these great options on your bench, but then your starters are in there too. So it's like, damn, like I got this tight end I like, but I'm looking at Musgrave like, Musgrave is ready, like he's right there.
Especially if you're on it.
Like Darren Waller or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's crazy because like I feel like I can have this great team, and maybe I should play more best ball because I guess that's where best ball comes in. But I feel like I have this great team, but I can only start only a fraction of my team. But my bench would be killers. Like I could put my bench as starters and be fine, right?
Man,
so it's just
all the Puka and Kyron on my bench during week 1 is just unreal. It's just unreal.
Wait, are you starting either of them?
In most of my teams, I am not starting them. But I have like literally 50% Puka, 50% Kyron.
Is it because of the matchup or more so because you can't fit them in?
More so because, like you said, you can't fit them in, and it's the matchup too as well. If it were an easier matchup, like a matchup where I feel like team's gonna be putting up points, I would. Puka, I think, is gonna be a little bit easier of a start because I think at some point if we assume that San Francisco is gonna be up by double digits, at some point they're just gonna be like allowing all the underneath catches, which is kind of where Puka operates out of the slot. So. I think at the very least he still gets 5 to 6 catches, which is like obviously very, very valuable. So he'll find his way into some lineups. Kyron is going to be a little bit tougher because San Francisco, obviously, to me again, they have a very elite D line. But and same thing with Higbee. Their D line is elite. They apply a lot of pressure very, very quickly. So they may want to leave Higbee in to block a little bit more. So he kind of concerns me. So I think if I do have to start one of them, it'll be Puka.
By the way, so waivers just went through. I just finished checking my waivers on one team. Puka went for 477 fab, and Justice Hill went for 400. Justice Hill.
Yeah. See, it's nice. You got to pick these guys up beforehand. Week 1, before week 1 was the best time to look at waivers and just say, what is the best case scenario? What is happening if X guy goes off? Who's going to be the waiver wire darling? And to me, it was just like clear. It was just clear. It was like Puka, Hunter Henry, Kyron Williams. Kupp is out. Devontae Parker was out. There was talk about Kyron being a little bit more involved in the passing game. We know what happened last year with Cam Akers. These are all just stabs. These are all just stabs. And we got, obviously, we joke around in the chat about who was first on Puka. We'll go ahead and say Deo was the first to introduce us to Puka early in the offseason as we were drafting.
I wasn't all in on Puka like you though, but I was the first to mention, but you were all in on him, so I'll give you that.
Hey, sometimes, whatever comes first, man. I got to get introduced to the idea before I can be all in. So, but taking
Chris,
those stabs.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna ask Chris. You asked us about the games we watch, and Abby, you can finish your thought. But after Abby finished, I want to hear what game that you learned a lot from this week as well.
Well, actually, I was going to talk about the Rams game after that because I thought that Rams secondary was going to be extremely poor, especially after they let Jalen Ramsey go, a bunch of young guys in the secondary. I thought that Rams secondary was going to look poor, but they actually kind of held up, man, especially going against an offense like the Seahawks that has, DK on one side, Lockett, JSN. Man, that Rams defense held up. Also, I thought that game was really important because, listen, I didn't believe it before, but when you said that Cam Akers is going to get that job taken away, and we talked about it a few episodes back, man, that job looked like it's done, man. Kyler looks like he has that job.
Yeah.
So I thought that was important. Obviously, we all talked about Puka, about who was going to fill the void with Cooper Kupp being gone. I think that still remains to be seen because Van Jefferson is there. But I thought that was a really important game also. And what's also important, I think, as well, is that Kenneth Walker was pretty much their bell cow on the other side, right? Like, I thought Charbonnet was going to get a bit more run, but I think he only got about 3 carries the entire game. I thought that was interesting considering where people were drafting Charbonnet. So,
yeah, man. So
why did they draft? But why did they draft him in the second round if they weren't going to use him though? Like, I don't get that.
But this is the thing, like. Process. But you say you don't get that thought process. He's done this multiple times. He did that with Rashad Penny. He did that with Kenneth Walker. Yeah, so I was like, I kept bringing that up. I was like, there's no way that like Pete Carroll. Just think about the guy. Sometimes you can get in these coaches' head. Like you can get in their personality, and you can like really see what it is. Like Mike Tomlin's a great guy. You can you can think like Mike Tomlin and say, okay, yeah, he's about to go down this route with this, but. Pete Carroll, like the idea that he's just going to sit veterans that have been like a Tyler Lockett and plug in a JSN, like to me, like that just like doesn't seem fathomable. That's not what a Pete Carroll does. But we've seen this happen before where they draft a running back and then like they stick with the tried and true veteran no matter where that veteran was drafted the year before. And I think really the reason they drafted him was just for depth, And to me, it's a smart move. You get this young guy in. If they feel like they're competitive, they feel like this, the NFC East is like is there for the taking. Like, let's get these guys on the young contracts. Tyler Lockett's coming up on his deal. JSN will replace him next year when he's available. But now these guys are going to be on rookie contracts, and we can start to like build out the rest of our roster. So to me, that was like a money move. But I agree with you with Kenneth Walker, and we mentioned this before on the pod about like. I think I like kind of came to this conclusion. I was like, you know what? Like, this is Kenneth Walker's team. Like, I don't think this is going to be like a 1A, 1B type situation. But I never like had the just the fortitude to like actually like hammer him in drafts. I just stayed away. So that's like a mark on me. And then to get to the Rams, I'm not believing it. I'm not believing the defense. I think this is more of a slight on either the Seattle offense not being prepared. Geno Smith turning back into Geno Smith more than it is like the Rams have a good defense. I'm not believing. I'll believe that when I see it. Now, their defensive coordinator, who's the defensive coordinator? Van Joseph, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's Van Joseph.
No. Van Joseph went to the Broncos. He went to the Broncos with Sean Payton.
Who's the defensive coordinator?
Morris.
Raheem Morris.
That's right. Raheem Morris. Yeah. So Raheem Morris may just gotten them like prep. Like, and then when you have like an entire offseason and you're like, this is what this team does, because Seattle doesn't change much. So they probably had tape on Geno, they had tape on Seattle, and you had like months to prepare. And they just had a game plan. They were like, trust me, this is gonna work. Now you gotta do that on a short week. Again, Sam, you're not game planning against Sam. Come on now. You're not what you gonna game plan against IU, Debo, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, man, good luck with that. This is gonna be a blowout. Yeah, this is gonna be a blowout. Like, don't think the Rams are like some like. Yeah. Don't get cute with that.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, guys. I think that's all we got for this week. We're doing short episodes during the season.
Whoa. A couple more things. I want to go down this list of games. I'm gonna just throw out just a couple things. Dale, interrupt me when you get a chance. Browns versus Bengals. I'm not taking too much away from the Bengals that game, but I am taking away that the Browns defense. Whew. And then Nick Chubb getting involved in the passing game. I like that. I think it's pretty clear and evident that Jerome Ford is a clear backup. I know we kind of had questions, or at least I did. Mm-hmm. So that to me has been solidified. I don't know what to make of the passing game just yet. I think they would, it was kind of an odd game. They were in the lead. Defense was clicking. It was raining, so Time will tell on what their passing game looks like. Bucks, Vikings. We told y'all. Concentrated pecking order and target tree with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's, and then it's just kind of everyone else. They still have difficulty running the ball. Rachaad White didn't look good. Justin, Sean Tucker looked even worse. So it's not, that the running game, and again, granted, hopefully, we'll see what happens, but I would have liked to have seen better effort going against the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings. Titans, Saints, we talked about that game. Won't get too much into that. Falcons, Panthers. Man, that passing game. Whew. If Drake London is in your starting lineup, man, you got some balls. you got some balls on your Drake London in your starting lineup. Until further notice, I need to see more from Ritter. I need to know that they're in the game where they are going to be behind, because this team wants to run. They want to control the clock. They want to bleed out the clock. And then when you play a team like the Panthers, who's probably trying to do the same thing, that's just like a recipe for fantasy disaster. So be cautious about that. It was good seeing Hayden Hurst get in the passing game. Man, I'm worried about. I'm so glad we didn't draft Bryce Young. I'm so glad that we did what we did, and we did not draft Bryce Young number 1 overall. Time will tell, but I'm glad. Jags, Colts. Calvin really is that dude. Yeah. I'm glad y'all put me on him late. Shout out to Dave Hubbard, because really, he was the one that was just he didn't even say too much. But when Dave says he's been drafting some guy, I'm like, let me go back and take a look. So I went back and I was like, you know what? I'm in too. And I just made sure I hammered him late in the season, and it paid off in a big way. I love what the Colts did from a pace standpoint. I love what they were doing with AR. AR is a viable fantasy starter almost any given week, and I think he's just going to get better. I'd like to see them get some better pass target weapons. Alex Pierce is just not that dude. They need a guy who can stretch the field. I'm hoping Josh Downs could do a little bit more. Michael Pittman be very serviceable in the right matchups. But I think if they can get Jonathan Taylor back, and I think it's not a surprise that Jonathan Taylor waited till after the game and all these reports came out that okay, once I come off of IR, I'm gonna be good to go. It's still the potential trade there, but I think Jonathan Taylor's watching okay, we may have a quarterback, we may have a team. They fought hard in that Jacksonville game, and I think him seeing that and being in that atmosphere, I think that sort of kind of allowed him to sort of kind of see, okay, I'm not just going to be blown away, giving up a year. So I'm excited about what I saw from the Colts, 49ers, Steelers. I don't know what to make of the Steelers. Dave, you got anything with the Steelers? Nah, yeah, that was just good luck. Calvin Austin is the one name that I would want to drop out. I was mentioning this in a group chat earlier that Pickens seems unhappy. There was he liked some social media tweet that had some negative comment about the Pittsburgh offense, and I think maybe even about Kenny Pickett directly. Fact check me on that. But to me, his role is the exact same as it was last year. And that was my whole issue with this offense. It's you're not bringing in a new offensive coordinator. You're not bringing in a new head coach. You're not bringing really a new it's the exact same offense as it was last year. Why do I want the same thing that I wanted last year? Maybe Pickett could get better. Apparently not. Or maybe just San Francisco's defense is that good, but it's the exact same offense. But now that you got Deontay hurt, Pickens is not a Deontay. You cannot substitute because they don't run the same routes. They don't get the same separation. Allen Robinson, I thought, was done 2 years ago. So I'm not about to jump on the Allen Robinson train unless I absolutely have to. So who does that lead? Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin, you talk about Zay Jones just being used all over the field. If this offense is really struggling, what are they going to do? They're going to try to say, okay, who on our team is playmakers? Do we want to throw a bunch of 50-50 balls? When we just kind of came off a game where we had turnovers and our offense wasn't doing anything. We want to throw a bunch of 50-50 balls to Pickens and just hope that he can come down with it. Or do we want to manufacture touches for guys who are explosive or put guys in position who can get open very quickly and make the game a little bit easier for Pickett? So I would say, the same way that I was kind of looking at Puka the week before is the same way that I'm looking at Calvin Austin.
Wrap it up.
I'm gonna stop there.
No, wait, my turn.
My
turn, right? Okay, so a few things. So you kind of went on some skill players or your little spiel, whatever.
Yeah.
One, A few things we never talk about, right? But I'm gonna talk about them. Kickers, right? Kickers. I like Nick Folk. I like the way the Titans use Nick Folk. Of course, he's a high scoring kicker, so that's low hanging fruit. But still, they kick a lot, and we know Nick Folk historically has done very well for us in fantasy. Jason Sanders. If that offense is gonna be moving the way that offense moved that game, he's a good option. Jake Moody. I've mentioned him before. Rookie from I believe LSU for the 49ers. Yeah. Get that guy. He's not known yet. He's known but not fully known. But that guy right there is just talented for a kicker or whatever. And then the last kicker, I don't even know his name. I don't know his first name, but I think his last name is Aubrey, the Cowboys kicker. If the Cowboys defense is that dominant, get that kicker, bro. Yeah. Like, just I don't even know who he is. I don't even know what he looked like. But get that kicker, right?
Saints kicker too. The Saints kicker too.
Who's I don't even know his name. The guy after Lutz. Yeah. Okay, so now defense, right? You mentioned one defense that I wanted to mention. I'm glad you mentioned it, was the Browns defense. Very good looking defense. What they just and you can say maybe Burrow was still hurt, or maybe Cleveland just has the Bengals number, because I think Burrow's only beat Cleveland once in his career. Yeah. But they look damn good, and Jim Schwartz has historically done very good for defenses. So that's a good option. Another option, the usual suspects, the Saints, of course the Cowboys, the Niners, the Eagles or whatever. But the Buccaneers are a little impressive. Don't sleep on them. Yeah. But one like super, super dark horse, but I was watching the game and certain things stuck out to me that was interesting, was the Cardinals defense. Here's the crazy thing about the Cardinals. Okay, so first of all, keep in mind their head coach was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles last year, right? So they're bringing that defensive mindset, right? But here's the crazy thing that stuck out to me when I was watching the game. They were getting pressure, like legit pressure on Sam Howell with just a 4-man rush. Like I wasn't seeing blitzes. I was just seeing their defensive tackle and defensive end getting in the backfield consistently. And I think they had like 4 or 5 sacks with just those front four. And I think they even got an interception. So that defense, I want to say the Cardinals had like a top 3 defense in fantasy this week. I mean, y'all can fact check me on that.
Yeah, they scored a touchdown.
Okay, yeah. So, but even so, I mean, if they're doing stuff like that, there's somebody that's at the very bottom of your waiver wire that you can probably get for $1 and might be something special.
And they play the Giants, who got all the offensive line woes in the world right now.
Right.
Oh no, I mean, the Giants are about to come back with the bang now.
Maybe. So this is the thing, man. You gotta, you see the Giants and you like, okay, they're gonna play the Cardinals. Like, okay, this is a bounce back game. But the things you got to look at is like their O-line is injured, man, and their O-line is still injured. Like that is an issue. Yeah. And with someone like Daniel Jones and if Darren Waller is still hampered by this hamstring, with the offensive weapons that they have, we thought it was going to be somewhat of an upgrade. It still hasn't just clicked yet. Like Dale said, like they just may be able to just get pressure. And if they can have everybody back in coverage, that's not going to be easy for Daniel Jones. Yeah. Nobody's scared of Barkley anymore either. Nobody's scared of Barkley anymore.
One more thing before I finish, right? Mm-hmm. The tight ends, right? The Dolphins tight end. Oh, Chris, we lost Chris.
Okay. Hey, we can do whatever we want now.
Chris is out. I guess we'll talk, right? We got it. Anyway, so really what I want to talk about now. No, but he'll catch back up later. But the Dolphins tight end, I think his name is Dermot Smythe or whatever.
Smythe.
He's not a young guy. He's been in the league a few years, but he played all the snaps, and I think it was like 3rd in targets for the Dolphins.
He had like 7 targets.
Be on that high, if you're gonna be on that high octane offense and play all the snaps, you're gonna fall into fantasy points easily. And
here's the kicker,
especially with all the coverage
too. Here's the kicker. This is what I always look for with players like this: is they called a play, and I think Tyreek Hill was like the decoy, not necessarily like a decoy from like a decoy standpoint, but like McDaniels knew that like the defense was gonna go to Tyreek Hill and was going to leave Derwin Smythe open. So that was, to me, like that was a called play to scheme open Derwin Smythe. And if they're doing that in that type of offense, where teams, like you said, like Tyreek Hill just went for 45 fantasy points. Like defenses are going to see that and say, we got to take away him. We got to take away Waddle. Boom.
Right.
Like you're gonna have blow up games where like Smythe just goes off because he's like running 50 yards down the field wide open for a touchdown. And I want some of that. So I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other tight end, and you already mentioned him, but I wanted to just kind of like reinforce it. Adam Troutman for those. I think everything we wanted Dosage to be. I think Troutman can be that plus some because now he's not even splitting with anybody at the moment. He has that rapport with Sean Payton from the Saints days. And remember, 2 years ago, we were actually targeting Adam Troutman in our drafts. Like we wanted to actually put him on our team. We felt like he was talented enough to actually be fantasy productive. It didn't work out back then, but maybe we were just a little too early, right? Maybe it wasn't the right timing, but we had the right mindset. So he's the other guy I would definitely say y'all should look out for. So so how we end the show, man? Because what's Chris just gone? Or
man, I feel like we done gave out plenty of information. We still got waivers coming up Sunday, so like let's not kill ourselves too much. So we appreciate y'all checking out First and 15th. Yeah. You why don't you go ahead? You go ahead and end it.
I don't know how to end the show. I never pay attention at this part. Like, hey,
all right,
you do the words. Yeah.
So we appreciate y'all checking out First and 15th. We'll see how often we're able to get these.
Man, y'all gonna try to kick me off my own?
I'm in the show, Chris. I'm in the show. Don't interrupt. Okay. We appreciate y'all checking out the show. We'll see if we have a show next week, but we definitely are continuing the quarterly episodes. So be on the lookout for that. As always, please like, rate, subscribe, and share. I'm gonna say it again because I feel like sometimes y'all don't hear it. Please like, rate, subscribe, and share. All right. We out.
We're out.